Okay, turn to Proverbs 11:18. 11:18. The wicked worketh a deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. Let's look at that first part. The wicked worketh a deceitful work. A wicked person is bad in moral character, disposition, or conduct, inclined or addicted to willful wrongdoing, practicing or disposed to practice evil, morally depraved. Work, it says the wicked worketh a deceitful work. To work is to do, perform, practice a deed, course of action, labor, task, business, occupation, process, etc. To do something evil or harmful, to commit a sin, wrong, or crime. He works a deceitful work. A deceitful work is a work that is full of deceit, given to deceiving or cheating, misleading, false, fallacious. It equals deceptive. And then it says a deceitful work is one that is full of deceit. Deceit is the action or practice of deceiving, concealment of the truth in order to mislead, deception, fraud, cheating, false dealing. And then a work in the noun form, the wicked worketh the deceitful work, is something that is or was done, what a person does or did, an act, deed, proceeding, business. So in other words, men who are morally depraved and are in bad moral character, disposition, or conduct do deceptive and misleading things. And they do it for advantage. They do it to gain something, as we will see here, because when you compare the first half with the second half, you see that they're connected with a contrasting conjunction, but. The wicked worketh the deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. So these two thoughts are connected. What's said in the second half has to do with what's said in the first half. The second clause shows that they who sow righteousness have a sure reward. In other words, their honest work will be rewarded. By contrast, the dishonest work of the wicked will not be rewarded. The intent of the deceitful work of the wicked is to acquire wealth or some advantage. That's why you deceive somebody, right? To get something out of them by trickery. But their deceptive actions will not yield the results that they hoped for. That's how it works, right? You think that you can get ahead by being dishonest, and sometimes you do for a time, but the Lord has a way of righting those wrongs and not allowing that to happen. The Lord had prohibited this kind of thing in the law of Moses, and under that law, you can turn to Leviticus 6, 1 through 5, under that law, if a man made gain of his neighbor deceitfully, he was punished by having to pay back the neighbor what he took, plus 20% interest. Leviticus 6, 1 through 5. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, if a soul sin and commit a trespass against the Lord and lie unto his neighbor in that which was delivered unto him to keep, so he's supposed to keep something, he says, oh yeah, somebody stole it, or something happened to it, and he steals it, in other words, by deceit, or in fellowship, or in a thing taken away by violence, or hath deceived his neighbor, or have found that which was lost, and lieth concerning it, and sweareth falsely, in any of these things, in any of all these that a man doeth, sinning therein, then it shall be, because he hath sinned and is guilty, that he shall restore that which he took violently away, or the thing which he hath deceitfully gotten, or that which was delivered him to keep, or the lost thing which he found, or all that about which he hath sworn falsely. He shall even restore it in the principal, that's what he actually took, and shall add the fifth part more thereto, that's 20%, and give it unto him to whom it appertaineth in the day of his trespass offering. So, if he got something by dishonest gain, he would give it back plus the fifth part, plus 20%. That's called a law of restitution. And that's what kind of laws we should have. That's what kind of punishments we should have. A lot of times nowadays, if you rip somebody off, you may go to jail for it or something, but a lot of times that person isn't not even made whole. They might say, well, the money's gone now, sorry. We'll put him in jail for a while. Well, what good does that do? He ought to be made to pay it back. In the book of Job, we're told that those who get wealthy by dishonest means, such as bribery or deceit, will not prosper, but will be destroyed. Job 15:34 through 35. It says, for the congregation of hypocrites shall be desolate, and fire shall consume the tabernacles of bribery. They conceive mischief and bring forth vanity, and their belly prepareth deceit. So they will be punished for it. They won't end up getting away with it. They'll be destroyed. Now, the wicked are deceptive in their dealings with others. And sometimes they do well for a time, but they don't end up prospering in the end. And we have to remember this. If you ever forget it, go read Psalm 37. If you ever see somebody that appears to be getting away with murder, the Lord will eventually take care of that. I don't know if I gave you the verses. Hosea 12, 7 through 8. Hosea 12, which is right after Daniel. He is a merchant. He's talking about Ephraim, Israel. He is a merchant. The balances of deceit are in his hand. He loveth to oppress. And Ephraim said, yet I am become rich. I have found me out substance. In all my labors they shall find none iniquity in me that were sin. So they get away with it for a while sometimes. He's got the balances of deceit in his hand. He's using dishonest ways of making money, ripping people off, cheating them. But they're not going to prosper in the end. They'll eventually end up reaping what they've sown. Let's look at Galatians 6, verses 7 through 8, which is kind of this ties into the previous proverb that we looked at. Galatians 6, 7 through 8. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. So if you sow to the flesh, you sow corruption. If you sow deceit and trickery and dishonesty and fraud and things like that, you'll end up reaping what you sowed. Eventually, sometimes it takes a while. Payday doesn't always come on Friday, but it does come. Those who plow wickedness will reap iniquity, we're told. I should have kept my finger there in Hosea. Hosea chapter 10 and verse 13. Hosea 10:13. Ye have plowed wickedness, ye have reaped iniquity, ye have eaten the fruit of lies, because thou didst trust in thy way, in the multitude of thy mighty men. Plow wickedness, reap iniquity. You reap what you sow. Your sin will find you out, as the Bible says. And if you sow iniquity, you'll reap vanity. Proverbs 22 and verse 8. It says, he that soweth iniquity shall reap vanity, and the rod of his anger shall fail. So that's kind of interesting. It says, if you plow wickedness, you reap iniquity, and if you sow iniquity, you reap vanity. So you plow up in order to sow, to reap. So when you plow wickedness, you end up with iniquity, which ends in vanity. Which vanity is? Okay, 22:8. Okay,
run that by again.
Well, in Hosea it said that if you plow wickedness, you reap iniquity, and then this says, "He that soweth iniquity shall reap vanity." So I was just thinking, you plow first, and then you sow, and then you reap. So wickedness, iniquity, and then vanity. And then in Ecclesiastes 10 and verse 8, should be a familiar verse to us. Ecclesiastes 10:8, he that diggeth a pit shall fall into it, and whoso breaketh an hedge, a serpent shall bite him. So those who would harm others will get harmed themselves, and oftentimes by the very means that they were trying to use to hurt others. Now the second half of the proverb, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. And we should remember these verses because it's tempting in our human nature to cheat to try to get ahead, right? Sometimes you think, well, it'd be really easy if I just cheated or I just lied or, just fudged on this, and then I didn't have to tell somebody that something was actually wrong with this product, and I could sell it and I could make a bunch of money, right? So you have those temptations sometimes to think, well, and if I tell the truth, I'm going to end up losing. So it'd be better for me if I just lied, and Well, you want to remember verses like this when you start thinking like that, because it doesn't work out that way. God will, he's not mocked. You will reap what you sow. And if you sow righteousness and you do the right thing, even when it's hard and even when it costs you in the short term, you will have a sure reward. To sow means to perform the action of scattering or depositing seed on or in the ground so that it may grow. Figuratively, it means to disseminate or spread, to endeavor, to propagate or extend in various contexts. He that soweth righteousness, so this is obviously used figuratively here, but just like when you sow seed, especially think about sowing like grass seed, where you just spread it all over the place, right, where you're not necessarily dropping it in its particular spot. You disseminate it, you just spread it wide, and that's when you do that with you sow righteousness, you just spread it out. Anywhere you have opportunity, you disseminate that righteousness. And when you do that, you exercise righteousness in all areas of your life, in everything. You will have a sure reward. Righteousness is justice, uprightness, rectitude, conformity of life to the requirements of the divine or moral law, virtue, integrity. When you sow something like that, you'll have a sure reward, which is a reward that is free from or not exposed to danger or risk, not liable to be injured or destroyed, safe or secure, trustworthy, firm, steadfast, that can be depended or relied on, not liable to fail or disappoint expectation, trustworthy, reliable. You're going to have a reliable reward. And a reward is a return or recompense made to or received by a person for some favor, service, or merit, or for hardship endured. So sometimes that's when we get our reward from the Lord for the hardships that we endure. Paul said that henceforth there was laid up for him a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, should give unto him at that day for all the things that he had endured. He had fought a good fight, he'd finished his course, he'd kept the faith, he said, and therefore there was a reward laid up for him. So in other words, he that disseminates and spreads uprightness, virtue, and integrity as he lives, works, and deals with others can depend upon and expect a good recompense for his labor. It doesn't always happen every time immediately. Right? When you make that hard decision and you honor your guarantee and it costs you a bunch, maybe for the moment you've lost, but you'll end up gaining. You'll have a sure reward because you worked righteousness and you did the right thing. We're told back in Hosea again, Hosea 10 and verse 12, that those who sow in righteousness will reap righteousness in mercy. Hosea 10 and verse 12. Hosea 10, 12. Sow to yourselves in righteousness, reap in mercy, break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord till he come and rain righteousness upon you. So if you sow righteousness, the Lord will rain righteousness upon you. It'll come back to you. The righteous that are not weary in well-doing will reap a good reward. You just have to be persistent in it sometimes. Galatians 6, 8 through 9. Galatians 6, 8 through 9. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. So we don't be weary in well-doing, for in due season, that means sometimes it takes a while, right? It's going to come, but it's not going to be immediate always. We shall reap if we faint not. You just don't want to give up too early. I remember, this is some business class that I was taking for something that I did in the past, and they had a figure, a cartoon-looking thing, and the guy had like a pickaxe, and he was mining for gold, and he was burrowing into the earth, and you could see the gold. He was inches away from it, but he'd gone so far, and he's just like, there's nothing here. He's just ready to give up, and if he'd have just swung the axe a couple of more times, it was there, right? So we can't be weary in well-doing, because we will reap if we faint not. But if you give up, you won't. The Lord says, if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. So you got to keep on keeping on, trusting that the Lord will reward your labor. And those who sow bountifully in giving to the needs of others will be rewarded bountifully by God. I got a number of verses for this. 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 15. That's the first one. 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 15. This is referring to giving to those who are in need. But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Every man, according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound towards you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. See, when you give bountifully to the needs of others, God is able to make all grace abound towards you. You reap what you sow. You just can't be weary in well-doing. As it is written, he hath dispersed abroad, he hath given to the poor, his righteousness remaineth forever. That's like sowing, right? He hath dispersed abroad, that's sowing. He has sown righteousness. Now he that ministereth seed to the sower, both minister bread for your food, and multiply your seed sown, and increase the fruits of your righteousness, being enriched in everything to all bountifulness, which causeth through us thanksgiving to God. So those who are bountiful in their giving will be enriched with all bountifulness from God. For the administration of this service not only supplieth the want of the saints, he's talking about the poor saints in Jerusalem that they had taken up a collection for because they were in a bad way, but is abundant also by many thanksgivings unto God, whiles by the experiment of this ministration they glorify God for your professed subjection unto the gospel of Christ, and for your liberal distribution unto them and unto all men. And by their prayer for you which long after you for the exceeding grace of God in you. Thanks be unto God for his unspeakable gift. So he that soweth righteousness hath a sure reward. When you sow, you give, you get it back. The Lord guarantees it. Proverbs 11, 24 through 26. I don't have, I think it's Luke 6, but given it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, good measure, running over, shall men give into your bosom, it says. Proverbs 11, 24 through 26. There is that scattereth, that's sowing, right? And yet increaseth. And there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. A lot of times we think, oh, if I give to the needs of other people, I won't have for myself, and I'll impoverish myself by giving to others. But that's not how it works. When you scatter, you increase. When you withhold more than is meet, you tend to poverty. It'd be like, a farmer that goes out and just says, well, if I sow all these seeds, what am I going to have to eat, right? Well, when you sow the seeds, you get more to eat, right? So, when you put it that way, it's not quite so hard to understand. Verses 25 and 26, the liberal soul, now this is liberal used in its primary sense, not Hillary Clinton liberal. The liberal soul, meaning the generous soul. See, liberals today are generous with other people's money, right? Truly liberal people are generous with their own money. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it. So there are those three verses, 3 in a row, the Lord reiterates there, that when you give to the needs of others, it'll come back to you. You sow righteousness, you'll have a sure reward, a guaranteed reward. Proverbs 28 and verse 27. Not to mention, Jesus said it's more blessed to give than to receive, and I can think of few things that give you more satisfaction and happiness than giving to the needs of others, to helping other people. Proverbs 28 and verse 27. He that giveth unto the poor shall not lack, but he that hideth his eyes shall have many a curse. The Lord will see to it that you don't lack. You sow righteousness, you'll have a sure reward. But if you see a poor person, a truly poor person, and are cruel and don't show mercy to him, you have many a curse. One more, Proverbs 19 and verse 17. He that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord, and that which he hath given will he pay him again. That's why the reward is sure, because the Lord is the surety. He's the one that guarantees it. Now, it said there that the wicked worketh a deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. The fruit of righteousness is sown in peace, not in deceit. James 3 and verse 18. If you want to reap righteousness, it's not by sowing deceitfully.